Hello everyone, this is your code friend. Welcome to yet another video in my YouTube channel. So in our previous video we discussed about the lock property. Before watching this video, I would like to recommend you to go back to that video in which we have discussed the lock property of the data frame, and then you can come back and watch this video, because in that case things will become much clearer to you. Okay, so without wasting any time, let's get started. The ILOC property of data frame is quite similar to the lock property. So what was the lock property doing? The lock property was being used to access one or multiple row or columns based on their index name or column name, right? The ILOC property does something very similar. Instead of using index name or column name, the ILOC property uses index position or column position. So let's flip back to Jupyter Notebook and let's see how this ILOC property actually works. So we have again used the same data frame. To keep things simple, I have again used the same small data frame. Okay, so let's run it, and we have 4 rows and 3 columns, right? Now let's say we want to access this row. So this is the row at the beginning, this is the 0th row, I can say. This is row number 0, this is row number 1, this is row number 2, and this is row number 3. So if we want to access this row, inside the lock property, what we were passing? We were passing the index name, right? Patient1. This is what we were passing inside the lock property. So let me do it once again for you. If we write df.lock patient1, then it gives us the first row, right? Now in case of ILOC property, the only difference is that instead of passing the index name itself, we have to pass the position of the row. Okay, we have to, in which position this row is? This is the 0th row, so we will pass 0. Let's run it, and we have got the desired result, right? Now just like lock property, ILOC property can also be used to access multiple rows. So in case of accessing multiple rows, what we have to do? Again, we have to pass a list, but this time again, instead of passing index names, we have to pass the positions of the row. So if we pass 0, 2 and 3, it will basically give us patient 1, patient 3 and patient 4, right? So let's run this cell, and we get patient 1, patient 3 and patient 4. Okay, so okay, let's delete this cell. Okay, now comes the slicing operator. Now there is a basic difference between the lock property and the ILOC property with respect to the slicing operator. In case of lock property, what we saw? If we pass patient1 colon patient3 inside the lock property, it will give us all these 3 rows. That is, the starting and the ending index are also included. The starting and ending values are also included. But okay, let's run that at first. Let's run df.lock patient. Okay, let's copy it from here. Patient 1 to patient 3. Okay, so if we run this, it gives us all the 3 patients. That is, the starting and ending values are also included. But when we use the ILOC property, if we pass 0 colon 3, then the starting value will be included, but the ending value will not be included, right? So what is the index number 3, or what is the row number 3? If we check, this is row number 0, 1, 2 and 3. So it ideally should have accessed patient 1 to patient 4 if we tally it with the lock property. But as I have just mentioned, here the end index is not included. So if we run this, it will access only from 0 to 2, that is row number 0 to row number 2, that is patient 1, patient 2, patient 3. Similarly, if we access df.ilog 0 to 2, then what will be the result? Tell me guys, what will be the result? Yes, you are right. It will access only row number 0 and row number 1. The row number 2 will not be accessed, right? And you can see only row number 0 and row number 1 have been accessed. Fine. So this is the difference between the lock and ILOC property when it comes to the slicing operator. Okay. Now let's say instead of accessing all the columns, if we want to access only the first column, that is the 0th column. Okay, to avoid confusion, let's print our data frame once again. So if we pass df.ilog 0, it was giving us all the columns. Now if we want to filter a particular column, then after comma we also have to specify the position of the column. So if we pass 0, 0, that means we are trying to access the 0th row and the 0th column. Fine. And you can see it gives us 50. This is the intersection of the intersecting cell of the 0th row and the 0th column. So it gives us 50. Similarly, if we want to access multiple columns, then we again have to specify the positions of those particular columns that we are trying to access. So here we are trying to access row number 2, comma, column number 0 and column number 2, right? If we run this cell, age and diabetes, if you see row number 2 is this, patient 3, column number 0 is age and column number 2 is diabetes. Fine. So that's what has been accessed. Now again, if we in case of accessing the columns, if we can again use the slicing operator. So if we want to access the consecutive columns, then we can use the slicing operator. So if we use 0, 2, then which of the columns will be accessed? Only column 0 and column 1 will be accessed. So 0, 0, 2 basically gives us the 0th row and the 0th column and the first column. So in the 0th row is this. So the 0th column is 50 and the first column is yes. We have got 50 and yes, right? Similarly, if we want to access multiple consecutive rows and multiple consecutive columns, then we can use the slicing operator both for rows and columns. So here it will access row number 0 to row number 3 and row number column number 0 to column number 1. You can see it accesses all the rows, that is row number 0, 1, 2 and 3, and it accesses column number 0, that is age, and column number 1, that is BP underscore problem. Now, as I also mentioned in my previous video, one thing you have to keep in your mind is that when you are using slicing operator, it always accesses consecutive columns. If you don't want to access consecutive columns, you cannot use the slicing operator. For example, if you want to access patient 1 and patient 3, in that case you will not be able to use the slicing operator. In that case, you have to specify 0, comma, which is the position of this column, 2, right? So you have to specify 0, comma 2. Sorry, it will be df.ilog 0, comma 2. And it gives you the desired result. Now instead of using 0, 2, that is instead of passing a list of passing this list, that is instead of passing 0 comma 2 in the list, if we don't pass it as the list and if we want to use the slicing operator, then what will happen? Let's see. It gives us patient 1 and patient 2, that is row number 0 and row number 1. It does not give us row number 0 and row number 2, rather it gives us row number 0 and row number 1. So if you want to access consecutive rows, then only you should go for the slicing operator. Otherwise, you should not go for the slicing operator. Rather, you have to specify the indices, or you have to specify the positions that you want to access in a list. Similarly, in case of column also that is true. Let's say I want to access the 0th row and the 2nd row. Similarly, I want to access the 0th column and column number 2. So what will be our result? We will get the 0th row and the row number 2. Let's go to the original data frame. We will get row number 0 and row number 2, and in among the columns we will get age and diabetes, right? So let's run this, and you can see that we have got row number 0 and row number 2, similarly column number 0 and column number 2. So that's how this ILOC property actually works. Okay, before wrapping up the video, I would like to show you one more thing. Let's say you want to access these two columns, that is column number 0 and column number 2, and you want to access all the rows. So whenever you want to access all the rows, what you can basically do is that you can specify the slicing operator, that is colon, and don't specify any start and end value associated with that colon or slicing operator. So this is the row part, and in the column part, as usual, you specify the columns you want to access. So this basically means you want to access column number 0 and column number 2, but in the row part you are giving a colon, but you are not giving any start and end value. This basically means you want to access all the rows. So let's run it, and you get all the rows and the columns that you specified. This is true for columns as well. Let's say you want to access only row number 2 and you want to access all the columns. So you can also specify it like this. You specify a colon, but there is no start or end value for the column positions, right? So you get all the columns corresponding to row number 2. Again, let's say you want to start from row number 1 and you want to access all the remaining rows. So you basically want to access patient 2, patient 3 and patient 4. In that case, you can specify it like this. Start from row number 1 and you access all the remaining rows. So if you specify the starting value and if you don't specify the end value, it basically means you are actually trying to access all the rows starting from the start value, right? So from row number 1, that is patient 2, it is accessing all the remaining rows. Fine, guys? So these are the small nitty-gritties of the slicing operator. All these things have been discussed in detail in the videos related to Python strings and Python lists. So again, I'm saying, if you have not watched that particular playlist, please go back to those videos and watch those videos at first. Then the concept of slicing operator will be much clearer to you. So I will give the link of those particular videos in which I have discussed about slicing operator, so that you can find it easily in the playlist. So with that being said, I would like to wrap up my video on ILOC property. Hope you have enjoyed this video. if you have liked the video, please let me know that in the comment section, because it will encourage me to create more and more content. Also, please don't forget to like and share my video so that it reaches a larger audience and they also get benefited from it. Thanks a lot for watching.